Hey everyone, this is a part two for this video. I'm going to go ahead and show you just a tiny bit of animation with this little blocky character that I made in my last video. So this character is going to go into Play Canvas, which is the game engine that we're using this year at school. And so I'm not going to animate the body because the body will move around in the video game through code, moving it forwards, backwards, left and right. So really I'm just going to animate the arms and the legs moving forwards and backwards in an endless loop. So here we go. Alright, so I'm going to start off by selecting this arm. This is the right arm. And actually let me, I'm going to get rid of these buttons here. Okay, so I've got my right arm selected and I'm on the rotate tool. And again, I mentioned this I think in the last video, but when I click and drag on the blue ring, it should rotate only in the z-axis, but it's not. It's not locking it just in the z-axis. It's very strange, and I don't know why that's happening. So the only way that I can lock it to the z-axis is to just come over here under transform, go here to rotation, and then just click on these little arrows here and rotate it, or I can type in a number if I want it to be a little bit faster. So I'm going to do the numbers over here on the right for this whole tutorial. Alright, so I'm going to select that arm and I'm going to have this arm swinging forward, and I decided that 50 degrees on the z-axis is a good one. Okay, so now I need to keyframe it. So I click on the word rotation and now it turns red, and there's now an orange marker down here telling me that there's a keyframe. Okay, I'm going to select this arm and I'm going to set it to the opposite. So it'll be -50 and create a keyframe by clicking on the word rotation. So now the arms are set. When you're walking, your legs and your arms should be doing the opposite. So I'm going to select this leg here, and since this arm is going forward, this leg needs to be going backwards. So again, I'm going to do -50, hit rotation, and then this one is going to be going forward, so +50. And there we go. Click on rotation. Okay, so that is our first pose, and animators call that a contact pose. Now, since I'm doing this for video games typically are 60 frames per second. So I'm going to go ahead and on the timeline here, go find frame 60. There we go, frame 60, and I'm going to reverse all of these. So again, I'll select this arm and I'll make it be -50. So now it's going backwards. Don't forget to keyframe it. Select this one, do the opposite, +50, click on rotation, and again we're just doing opposites here. So it goes back. I find most people tend to forget the keyframing, and forward. And there we go. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. So if I go back here and press play, and there we go. Okay, I want to make this a 2-second animation. I want to make it 120 frames. So what you want to do is you want to click out here in an open spot. Then over here on the right, click on timeline and make sure that your end frame is set to 120. By default, it's at 200, but we want it at 120. So we have a 60 frame, 2-second animation. Okay, so now I'm going to go to frame 120, and then I'm going to have these do the opposite again. So I'm going to pause the recording and I'll see you when I'm done. Okay, so again, I just reversed the numbers. It was good. I could add in like a little head moving here side to side. That might look kind of funny. But if I go ahead and go back to the very beginning, frame 0, press play, you'll see that I do have a loopable animation. It's playing slowly here. Let me go here to the player. Or actually, let's see. So the final thing that I'll show is that if you're following along for my class or you want to do 60 frames per second, this right now is playing at 30 frames per second, which is normal for video. But for video games, we want it to go a little bit faster. So if I click over here in an empty spot, click here on the timeline section, you'll see right here it says frame rate and it says standards. Mine says NTSC, which is video. If I click on this and I choose custom, I then get the number here and I can go ahead and type in 60. Let's press play again and see how it does. And so now you can see it's a little bit faster, a little bit more natural. Okay. If you want to animate the head turning, you'd probably you need to change the pivot point for the head, just like we did for the arms and the legs. So you can see how the pivot point is right here in the middle. So again, if you want to do that, select the head, come over here, click on transform, go down here to pivot, and you just want to go right here to local rotate pivot, and I'm going to go negative on the y-axis, so that way it's down here, it's at the base of the head. Now, and I did negative 0.4 if you're following along exactly. Now if I go ahead and I rotate this, I could rotate this where I move it here. It looks like it needs to go on the x-axis, and I can move the head moving side to side, something really simple like that. So let me do there we go. So maybe on frame 0, maybe it's something like maybe 8 degrees. Yeah, so maybe 8 degrees on the x-axis. He's got a little tilt there. I'll go ahead and keyframe that, and then I'll go to frame 60, and I'll just do a negative 8. So he's tilting to the other side. Keyframe it, and then the very last frame, we'll go back to positive 8 degrees rotation. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Whoops. Okay, so he's got a little tilt. Again, personal preference. You might not like that, but I find it adds in a little bit of extra life. Okay, it doesn't look very realistic because his torso is not moving. So that's kind of the unrealistic part. But that you might not see that in the game that we're going to put this in. Okay, thank you very much. I will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.